Welcome to Side Projects. I am your host, Joe Tannenbaum, and with me today is Andy Newhouse. Welcome, Andy.
Hi, nice to see you.
Yeah, do you want to give everybody a little intro? Tell everybody about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Andy Newhouse. I use they, them pronouns. I work at Titan as a programmer. I've been working in Laravel since about 5.0 and like pretty much my entire professional career, and yeah.
Nice. 5.0, that's a minute. That's a long time.
It's been a minute.
That's awesome.
It almost feels like an aging question.
Yeah, I know. It's like, how
old
old are you? Are you 5.0 old? Are you 4.2 old? How old are you? Yeah, absolutely. I was having that discussion a lot at the meetup last night where, how long have you been using Laravel? What's going on with you?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think I jumped on at 5.4-ish, I think is where I started. So a little after you. But yeah, well, welcome. I'm excited to have you on. So as this is all about side projects, what is your side project vibe? Are you a domain hoarder? Do you have a million directories, or is it pretty right and tight?
I feel like earlier I was a domain hoarder, and these days I'm like, I don't want to pay. I know it's only $10, but I'd rather like go get a burger for $10 rather than have a domain. So these days I usually just use subdomains of like my domain and use those until it feels big enough to warrant its own domain.
That is very sensible and adult of you. I think that's great, and I think more people should follow that lead.
Yeah.
It's a good strategy.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Nice. Which side project would you like to talk about today?
We can talk about Sunny, which is like my LifeOS side project, which LifeOS I totally stole from Aaron Francis. So
sure.
Thank you,
It's a great
Aaron.
name. It's a great name.
It is a pretty good name. Yeah. I had originally built it in Filament, and it was like I had made a bunch of apps, and then I just kind of put them all in one app, so I'd have one app to maintain.
Sure.
And basically it's just an app for my spouse and I to like manage crap.
Great.
And just keep it all in one place and sane.
So the impetus was like, we don't know what's going on with these 4 buckets of things, and so like we need to like put this into like a dashboard kind of thing.
Pretty much, yeah. So like we have stuff. We own a house, so we accumulate junk. So I didn't know where stuff was, and so I made this like simple inventory tracker where it's like, this is a thing, it goes in a bin, and it goes in a place. And that's all it does. It's really simple.
And you just log that in the system, like this thing is in this bin? Are the bins like not, I don't want to overscope this here, but are there like QR codes on the bins so you know what's going on?
Yes.
Or is it, yes, really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, wait, break that down. So are you printing custom QR codes for the bins and then correlating them in the system? Okay, talk to me about that.
So first it started off with like an Airtable, and then I could print a QR code with the link to the Airtable. And then I was like, well, I'm just going to build this myself because I'm a developer and that's what we do. And yeah, I found a package that generates QR codes for links, and I have a thermal printer and just print them off.
So official.
Well, I had it lying around, so I figured I might as well use it. But when my spouse prints them off, they usually use our just regular, like, laser printer with sticker paper. And then we, like, cut them out and stick them on the box and have, like, 4 for a box. So it doesn't matter which way the box is oriented, it exists, and you can scan it.
Man, you've cracked a really, really useful thing. So, and how often are you using it? Are you scanning it a lot? Like, is that a regular thing?
It's becoming more regular as we prepare to move. And like,
sure.
Like packing
it's so useful
up.
When you move.
Yeah.
That would be so useful.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like, as we're organizing stuff and going through stuff, it's like, okay, this is what this bookshelf holds. Or this is, like, it doesn't even have to be a literal bin. It can just be like, this is what this cabinet has in it. or
Right.
this is what this bookshelf has, this is what this random, those little like cloth boxes that go in the cubbies, this is what this
Yeah.
random cubby has, like, which is super
That's
helpful.
so smart. And then can you search it from the interface? Can you like, I'm
Hmm.
looking for this, and then it shows you which bin it's in?
Yes. So I can
Man,
be
that
in
would
my
save me a lot of time.
office and be like, okay, I'm looking for this random tech thing. Like maybe I need my other key light. Which bin is it? Where is that bin currently located? Because, we move stuff around a lot.
Sure.
And okay, it's in, the workshop, or oh, it's in the basement. So let me just run down there and grab it. And then it's like, okay, here's the bin, open it up, ta-da.
So the
Like,
only thing about this is that it requires the diligence of all parties
yes,
involved to maintain the system, because otherwise the
yes,
system is nothing.
correct.
So is like input very simple? Like what does that look like to like correlate an object with a bin?
It is a select, well, no, it's a correlate an object with a bin. It is, yeah, you make the object and then you select the bin that
Okay,
it's supposed to go
easy.
into. And yeah,
Great.
so like beach towels go in the beach bin.
Man,
And
it's
so
so
you can,
good. I
it's so
mean, the
good.
number
I
of
love
times my
it.
wife and I are like, "Where is X?" And then
Hmm.
neither of us actually know, and then we have to go through. I mean, we live in a smallish apartment, so it's not like we have
Hmm.
like a lot to go through, but it's
Yeah.
enough where this system would be amazing. That's so smart.
Especially with kids. Like, you're
Yeah,
going to just accumulate stuff with kids. And
totally.
it's like, oh, this person's having a baby. Where is our, like, toddler clothes that we want to, like, give them?
Yes.
Okay.
It's how long have you been using the system?
Probably a year or two. And it's
Okay.
working pretty well. I mean, we're not perfect at like keeping up with it, but every once in a while I sit down and I'm like, okay, this is this bin. I'm going to make sure everything in this bin is correct or whatever. But yeah, I like it a lot. It's super helpful to just like, for our ADHD brains, just like everything has a home.
Yeah.
Like it can live outside its home, but as long as we know where its home belongs, we can
Yep.
get it back there eventually.
A
So
place
like
for everything and
that's,
everything in its place, you know?
yeah. And so that's just like a part of it. The other part of it is like my spouse has chronic pain. And so we were like correlating what their pain, muscle pain and joint pain is like with the weather. And so like they can go in and log their stuff for the day, then it grabs the weather data and it's like, okay, now we have all these data points to potentially, not that we've done it, but potentially like track patterns.
So smart. So you're pulling it from like a weather API,
Yeah,
like you're yeah,
open weather.
cool. And this is all Laravel and
Hmm.
Filament you're saying?
Yeah, it's the first version was in Filament, and then I'm rebuilding it to play with Flux. Because
Okay, cool.
like this project is also my like, oh, I'm gonna play with this random thing that I haven't played with before. So like the first version was in Filament because I wanted to play with Filament. I played with Pest, got into Pest a little bit. Now I'm playing with it with Flux. And I used Saloon for like the API integrations and
Yeah.
stuff.
How
And
did
so
you find that? Did you like Saloon?
yeah, I liked it. It was fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have not used it with an API that does anything but gets. So I would like to try and play with it with an API that I need to post to, but I
Mm-hmm.
haven't found a good like use case yet, but
Okay, cool. Cool.
figuring it out.
I love Saloon.
Yeah, I
It's
love
not
it
right
too.
for every use case, but like if you're building out like an SDK or something, it's
Hmm.
amazing. It's so fluent and readable.
Yeah, I just like having all of the like junk in one spot.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
rather than having like a big HTTP GET with like the headers and stuff and all
Yeah.
the tokens or whatever, it's like, okay, I'm going to do that once and call this thing. And I like it a lot for even like small things. If I'm going to use the call in more than 2 or 3 places, then yeah, it's going to get extracted to Saloon.
Makes sense. Makes
And I
sense.
like having Saloon as a pattern rather than having to like come up with my own.
Yes. Yeah. There's like a format laid out for you a little bit.
Yeah. especially for like side projects, it's like helpful to not have to like reinvent the wheel constantly. Like that's part of what I want to do with like exploring new things, but also like finding that balance of like utility and efficiency.
Yeah, well, I think you were the one that tweeted that this was that you were saying that this was the project that you just try things out on when you want to try
Mm-hmm.
them. And I think that's so smart because like you're like, well, I've got this is my playground. It's something I actually use, but it's also my playground. And so you can hit the ground running with something
Mm-hmm.
a little bit faster because there's like already a construct in place. There's already like
Mm-hmm.
it's an app you're so familiar with, right? Like it's you don't have to build like a to-do app to figure out what this,
Yeah,
this tech
and I
does or
can
whatever.
usually I'm pretty good at being like, here's the thing that could be useful for my spouse and I. Here, let's
Hmm.
build it. And like, this is a thing that I want to use, so let's make it puzzled together well, and it
Yeah.
usually does.
So you've got bin sorting or bin
Hmm.
categorization.
Yeah,
You've
so
got
inventory.
correlating chronic pain with weather, which is I love that what they're logging is just like the thing that they're concerned with, and then you can
Hmm.
kind of just pull in whatever you
Whatever.
want on the
Yeah,
side that might affect that, which happens to be the weather in this case. It's such a smart way of going about it. Anything else that this does?
let's see. We're gonna add stuff to that, like, we call it delta because it's like the change in weather usually affects their pain. So
Okay.
we're also going to add asthma tracking for them so that they know when they can take their inhaler or when they should use their
Mm.
nebulizer and stuff like that. There's another thing that we just added. I just added a status tracker. So
Okay.
it's kind of like, have you heard of BusyBox?
Busy box. I don't know that. No, I'm not familiar.
BusyBox was a Kickstarter campaign that I supported before the pandemic. And it was this like little digital screen that would show your status if you were like busy so you don't get interrupted during a meeting.
Okay.
And that's fine. It works fine. I think it promised more integrations and the integrations being easier than it actually ended up being. But I liked the concept of like, oh, you can just set the status and everybody else knows where you're at or like what you're up to. But putting that on my like office door doesn't make sense because like our house is like weirdly configured and it doesn't make sense to like make the other person walk all over the house to like see my status.
That's fair.
So I made a little API so that I could post what my status is and then it updates on the dashboard and so they can just go into the website that they're already using to see like weather and stuff and see what I'm up to.
Can you
And then they
post
do the
like
same.
anything to that, or is it like
Yeah.
on off? Like what? Are you posting like messages like in a call on, or
Uh,
how does that work?
right now it is a string column on the users table.
Perfect, as it should be.
So it's I have it set up right now. I like made a Raycast extension so I can just click and pick the status that I like and I have a few like predefined statuses, but it's not like it's like an emoji of like a developer and saying coding work or coding fun or like in a meeting or like what type of meeting it is. Cause like if I'm pairing with somebody at Titan, my spouse can walk in and that's fine. But if I'm pairing with like clients, I would rather not get interrupted because I don't know, it's just less weird.
So this is like a really well trod hub. Like you
Mhm.
all use this a lot. Like
Yeah,
this is like critical to the everyday life. It sounds like.
yeah. And we keep finding more things to like add to it. So like Mint shut down. So now we're doing the thing that Ian Landsman's going to yell at me for, which is fine. I don't care. But we're going to add our own little like, money tracking because everything is expensive and I don't want to spend money on a thing that isn't even going to work well for our brains. So, like,
And also, then you can track it in a way that makes sense to you because these things never
mm-hmm.
work the way that you actually
Yeah,
want them to work. So,
yeah.
yeah, great. I love
And
that.
like,
I love that.
Ash, my spouse, they love Excel spreadsheets for accounting. And I'm like, can we make it better? Like, I want a UI. So, like, we're going to find that mix of like where we both make it make sense, and so
Are you
that's
going to
also fun.
attempt to recreate Excel? Is that part of
No,
the possibility?
no, I don't think we're gonna make Excel, but I think like we're gonna take our existing spreadsheet and like distill it down into like models and entities and things so that we can like create and update and delete, and maybe it becomes an Excel-ish thing. I don't know if Flex will let me do that, but we'll find out. It'll be fun.
It'd be a fun challenge.
Could be cool.
It'd be fun to
Yeah.
fun to tinker with. That's cool. What's the dream scope? Like what things, if you had all the time in the world, would you add to this that you've thought about?
I mean, accounting is like the next big thing. I feel like we always have like random ideas and then we forget to write them down because ADHD
That could
brains.
be part of the hub. Is
Yeah.
you could have a hub ideas backlog, you know?
Yeah. I think I'll probably add a Trello-ish thing. I will probably add a way to track collections of things. So like I collect Lego and I also collect Pokemon cards and I collect like dev courses, so I could have a way of like, okay, these are the things that like it's kind of separate from inventory because it's a little bit more nuanced, but then also like, okay, these are all the Lego sets that I don't have that I would love. Let's add a wish
Feel
list.
like a wish
And
list. A wish
yeah.
list. I love a wish list. That's
I
great.
love a wish list, especially when they're never going to happen.
So actually, I used to be very into Lego. Like when I was younger, it was like my whole identity practically. I am learning in my adult life that Lego is the plural of Lego. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, because I said Legos forever,
Yeah.
and now I feel like a fool.
It's like one of those things where like super big adult fans will be like, it's Lego. And I will do that sometimes jokingly, but I'm like, it's Legos. It's
Doesn't
or
actually
Lego.
bother you.
Like
Okay.
it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But yeah.
I love that. What have you found to be either the most challenging part of building this or like the most joyful part? Like what brought you the most like sort of like nerd joy out of that?
I think the hardest part initially was getting spouse buy-in. Cause like at first
Fascinating.
like, okay, we had one app for the pain management, and we had a different app for the inventory management, and we had a different place for this. And I was like, this is too many things. This is too many places. Let's combine them. And then they were like, oh, this is great. I love this. And so that was awesome. And there was also a lot of like nerd joy of like, this is a like not technical person. Like they're still super smart, but I'm just like, they're not a coder. They don't code every day. And they're like, oh, this is so cool. And this is super helpful. And like, it also is fun to like practice with like, what does the client in air quotes actually need?
The
And what
client
do they
being
want?
my spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's totally.
Which is super helpful and like applicable in just work or like in general of like figuring out actually what people want from what they're saying and how to actually build it and actually build what they want rather than, you know, that cartoon or meme where it's like what the client wants and it's a swing and what they build and what they actually needed.
Yeah.
So it's fun to like start with an idea, start building it, and then sometimes being like, okay, let's scale this back a little. It doesn't need to go that hard. And then piecemealing things together. And it's like, I don't care if it's the perfectest code ever.
No.
It's a side project.
It's a side project.
Who cares?
Let her rip.
But it's also fun to like play with Volt or play with Folio or play with random things that I don't get to play with all the time.
Yeah.
Because like at Titan, it's like, what does the client want to play with? And it's okay, well, I'll play with that with the client. But after work, I get to play with whatever I want to play with. And
I get to go in my sandbox and I get to play over here. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Which is super fun.
getting that spouse buy-in is so amazing. It's so satisfying. Like when they're like, wow, you built something useful and I love it. It's just like, it's more satisfying than anything else you do as a dev, I feel like sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, that status thing where I update my status is so useful to them that they have now started adding their own statuses.
Yes.
And now they're like, I want a way to make this easier for my setup, which is now like, okay, now how do I make a easy way for them to do this on their Windows machine? So Raycast isn't going to work, and I don't know.
Although soon, the Raycast for Windows is coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then maybe I can get them to buy
I don't know
into
what
that.
the date is, but it is coming down the pipeline. So hopefully you can just share that extension over, which would be great.
Mm-hmm.
I love plugging things into Raycast. Have you worked with Raycast extensions a lot?
No, this was like my first Raycast extension, and I played with it, and there was some issue with state that I just wasn't getting because I haven't played with React in a really long time.
Okay.
And so at Onsite or LayerCon, I like shoulder tapped Tony. Shoot, I forget how to say his last name, but Tony, another like really, really, really smart Titan person. And he was like, oh yeah, you just do this and this. And so we were pairing on it at Onsite for this random thing, and it was so fun.
I love it.
So yeah, I think eventually it would be cool if like maybe I play with Pennant and do like feature flags so that like other people could use it and like turn off the things that they don't want.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. But also I think it's a cool idea for this project to be like an example of like, okay, here's what I did for this problem.
Yeah.
Take it and run with it. Like, I don't care. Like, go for it. And it could be like a good starting point. I also had the thought of like, okay, I'm playing with Volt. I'm playing with regular like Livewire classes and like functional versus class-based Volt, and like which one feels the best for me. And I'm like, it depends on the context. And I hate that answer. I'd rather have one that I like all of the time. But I think it's a cool opportunity to be like, this is how this works. This is an example of a way to set this up in this way, or in this way, or in this way.
So, as in, like, it becomes a reference for yourself to say, this is how I did this here, and this is how it made sense. Is that what you're basically saying?
Yeah. Or, like, sharing with others, too, of, like...
Sure.
Somebody's learning Livewire and being like, how do I do this simple cruddy thing in Livewire? Here's a good example in these different flavors.
That's amazing. Yeah, I feel like especially when you don't get to necessarily choose the tech at work, which is most people's situation.
Yeah.
That freedom to be like, what do I want to dive into? And then like just playing in the space is so satisfying. And it's cool that you have sort of built yourself a really flexible sandbox within which to play. I think that's so smart.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I like tried to learn several languages like rapid fire, and I did it by building a project in a language that I knew, which I think at the time was PHP probably. And I was like, great, let's build it in Ruby. Great, let's build it in, Go, whatever. And it was good because I had already figured out the problem. I just wanted to replicate it over and over. And you've sort of built something almost even more flexible than that, where you're like, I know this problem space so well that I can build something out in some new tech because I know what's going on over here in this whole world, which is so smart.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just fun to know, like, this is what works for us, and this is what is helpful for us. And, like, there's other things where I'm like, oh, it would be cool if from my office I could know what's in the pantry. And my spouse is like, that would be great, and that would be such a pain. Dear God, don't do that.
Unless you hooked up like sensors, like the way that have you seen those like self-checkout stores like the Amazon, if you hooked up sensors and like had it auto-configured to like know what was in the pantry automatically, that's a cool side project. That would be amazing. And probably expensive because those sensors are probably not cheap, but...
Maybe. Arduino is very interesting, and they've got a lot of random sensors that do a lot of random things.
Yes.
We also do 3D printing. Like, my spouse has a 3D printing business, and so, like, we're constantly fighting for the printer. Not constantly, but, like, I want to print fun stuff, and they're like, no, I have to print this for, like, somebody bought this, and I have to print this now. And so I did build a queue app that was like, we can add stuff to the queue, and it worked with the Raspberry Pis that were connected to our old printers. And it did a whole bunch of really fun stuff, and I really liked it. But then we upgraded, and the new printer doesn't work with that interface anymore, which is like, oh, that's a bummer. But also the new printer is so much better, so I don't really care all that much. And we're not fighting over it constantly because it is so much faster.
Yeah.
Having the queue of like, okay, I want to add that back into this app where it's like, okay, these are the things we want to print, and these are the ideas for things we want to print, or whatever have you, or things we want to design, or stuff. So it's just really become just our like tech hub of like all of the random little things that could be useful.
So specific to you, and I love that. Yeah. It's like, nobody would need this combination of items except for you. And I think that's fantastic. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Like,
do you have like a white whale side project, like one that you wish that you had time to build, or like have started several times and never really got around to it? Or are you doing your white whale right now? Like, what is the...
I think, like, it would be great if I had a great idea that would, like, make me a ton of money, but, like, that's not... I don't know. But this is the thing that I'm excited to work on and excited to play with and excited to, like, share tidbits that I've learned from it, which is cool. And I think... I don't know if I would say it's my, like, white whale, but also... I don't know. It's just
the thing bringing you the most joy right now, and that's all that really matters.
And I'm good with like finding a minimal, like something that brings me joy right now is like perfect.
Yeah, that's great. So we need to buy sensors for your pantry. That's one thing. We need the sort of like not wish list, but the idea list. You need to build in an idea list for the app itself, so that when you have ideas, you can just get a backlog going.
Yeah.
Is that the Trello board? Is that what you that's the kind of, okay, great. I love that.
And also
I love that you
like
wouldn't even use Trello
lists.
for that. You're like, I want to build a Kanban board for my thing, which is great.
I know, like, Caleb was teasing out a Kanban board that he had built with Flux and Livewire, and I'm like, cool, just let me copy it, please. Thanks.
Drop that Kanban board.
Yeah,
where is
drop it already. Yeah. I think it'd also be cool, like, for the 3D printers, we use PLA, which is a fairly common plastic, and it's fine usually with humidity, but still, like, we have boxes with humidity sensors, and it would be great to see, okay, this humidity sensor, like, this one needs more stuff, this one doesn't.
Yes. You're hooking into so many APIs and like interfaces. That is so exciting to me. I think that's incredible. Is this hosted remotely or just locally at your house?
I have it on the Forge box.
Okay, cool.
With like all of my my website, this, and a few other things are just on a $5-10 DO box, and
perfect.
It's fine.
Perfect. Yeah,
it's perfect. I think I'm looking right at it. The other fun thing is I have a literal dashboard that is like, it's a Raspberry Pi hooked up to a screen. It fits under my monitor, and it hooks up to this app, and it's got my calendar, Ash's calendar, our family calendar, the weather, my status, their status. And then I also built a little widget for like all of my coworkers' time zones, so I know where they all are.
Yes.
And that's using Spasi's Laravel dashboard. Like, so it's just like a cluster of all these random things. So it's so much fun.
But it's like cobbling together this stuff is great. Wait, Spasi Laravel dashboard. I actually don't know that package. I've never even heard of it. It's like just like kind of like a builder, like a builder package for interface.
They
or
use
what does it do
in their office for a TV.
Okay.
And so
you kind of just feed it data, and you say this is the format of the data, and they like how what is it doing exactly?
So what I really like theirs for is it's got like a grid system that is nice, and you can say I want this tile to take up this much space. And then they also have this tile idea where like each card is its own tile. It's kind of similar to Pulse in that way, where it's
Okay.
like each card is its own little thing.
Yep.
And each card has its own state. And they have a really simple data store where like, okay, the calendar stores things in this way, but it all feeds into the same tiles table, which is
Gotcha.
basically a name and a JSON blob of stuff. But
And then
it's pretty fun.
is there like standardized output that they're providing? What is the display side of it? Is that something you're handling or something they're handling?
Either. So like
Interesting.
you can use their tiles that they've made, or you can write your own Livewire component that
Oh, cool.
displays in the same way. And they have a slight design system, but it's basically just Tailwind with a couple of nice classes to handle dark and light mode. So,
Okay.
So like they have text dimmed and text something, but
So you have this hooked up to, you said, a Raspberry Pi that sits with a little screen that just kind of updates all day?
Yep. Wire pull, and each tile has their own wire pull. So like it has, Spasi's dashboard has like a default, and then like you can set each tile to pull at different intervals. So like I have a clock one that is actually all JavaScript, so it doesn't actually pull anything.
Right.
But like the weather pulls every minute or two. The calendar, I think I have it like every 15 minutes. We're not adding
so cool.
calendar things all the time.
Yeah.
Which is super nice. And then my like future idea for that would be like to hook into Home Assistant and like be able to turn stuff on and off from there. Which
So you can
nice
like add like buttons to the screen that you can then hook up to the smart home stuff. Is that what it is?
Yeah. So like I have a Stream Deck that all I use it for is to turn off my key light.
Okay.
And I don't need the Stream Deck to do that.
Right.
Do it on this other screen that's right next to it.
Have you done any home assist integrations or not? Not yet.
I set it up once and then I didn't really play with it all that much, but it's still kind of like the Elgato key light won't turn on and off with the Google Assistant, but it will with Home Assistant.
Great.
So I'm like,
great, perfect.
Okay, I can use Home Assistant to control my office lights and my like key light and all this other crap, but
what does that integration look like? Is it like a web API or is it like do you happen to know?
I feel like it was a little bit more complex than just an API, which made me be like, maybe later.
Yeah, this is not where, in my opinion, Apple shines. This is like their sort of like programmatic interface stuff.
Home Assistant, what is the open source?
What's the open source one? I'm getting.
Yeah.
What does Apple call theirs? Is
Home
it Apple
something?
Home? Okay.
HomeKit.
HomeKit. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let me reframe this all. So it is some sort of like API that you can kind of like post or get from or something like that.
Yeah. I think it wasn't a strictly REST API, so it was something a little bit weirder.
Okay.
I think. But I could just be remembering wrong, and somebody can just be like, Andy, you're an idiot, and there is.
But it was enough friction
API.
For you to say like, it's not for me.
Maybe
right
later
now at this moment. Okay.
Especially because like it lives on a Raspberry Pi that's hooked up to our internet, and like it has to live next to the Wi-Fi router and all that stuff. And I was like, okay, I can use this Raspberry Pi for something else.
Yeah.
So
cool. Wow,
fun.
This is like the dream. I would never get spouse buy-in for any of this, but like if I did, I'd be rolling. This is exactly what I'd be building. It's so smart.
I mean, it helps that they are like fairly technical. Like they're a chemist and a physicist, and so they're like, okay, this could be helpful. And then like I think usually there's a little bit more of like, how much time is this going to take, and will it be useful? And is there something else that might bring you more joy, like building Lego or something? And like more so, like, what are your intentions behind building this? Is it like
Sure.
because you think I need this, or you think we need this, or are you going to actually have fun doing that? And as long as you're having fun, go have fun. But like, if it's something else, let's talk about it a little bit more.
That is so nice and supportive, and
Yeah.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that like the questions even being like asked.
Hmm.
My wife is usually like, "Why? What are you wasting your time on right now?" She's very supportive, but also
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's great. I love that dynamic.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
I mean, it kind of like they're disabled, you know, more or less, like physically. So, like, a lot of stuff rests on me, like cooking and cleaning and all that crap. So, they're a lot more like, okay, you have limited spoons outside of work. So, what are you actually going to use those spoons on? And are they going to bring you fulfillment and joy and make your ADHD brain? And like, let's actually focus on that instead of just ignoring it all the time, which I'm really bad at.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
But it sounds like this does bring
yeah,
you joy. It sounds like this
it
is
does.
something you're
Yeah,
enjoying playing with. Yeah.
yeah.
And ultimately, it's being used and useful, which is
Hmm.
more than most side projects can even say, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
And like, it's used by more than just me. It's used
yes,
by one other person.
you
which
have
is,
users. That's
I have a
amazing.
user, but yeah, it's
Listen,
better than none.
it's one more user than most people have. So
True.
you're on the road to success
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. Success with no income, or like, it's not going to make any money, but that's fine. It makes joy, which is
But
perfect.
the pure joy side projects are,
Yeah.
I mean, look, I've never made one that makes any money either. So maybe that joy is eclipsing the pure joy of the side project. But I've only made joy with side projects, and I find them to be immensely immensely
They're
satisfying.
super
So
fun. Yeah.
anything else you wanna add or bring up or talk about? I'm open.
I feel like I'm like trying to remember if I'm forgetting anything that this thing does or I want it to do. Yeah, no, I think this is all this does, and it's super fun, and I love
And it's
it.
rocking it. It's doing it well.
It's rocking. And I also love that we like name each like feature. So like the original version was called Hootie. And Hootie
And the blowfish?
is no.
Okay.
One of our like recent favorite TV shows is called Owl House, and it's a Disney Channel TV animation. It's really cute. It's really good. And so they all live in this house, and they're protected by a house demon named Hootie. And the Hootie is just like this owl. But Alex Hirsch, the voice actor who does Hootie, when they were like planning the show, was like, oh, let me just do random scratch takes, and did a demonic Mickey Mouse. And the creator loved it so much, she kept it in the show. And so like so if you think of a demonic Mickey Mouse voice, that's Hootie's voice. And
I've got that locked in. I know exactly what that sounds like. That's great.
But yeah, so like Hootie protects the house. And so then like the currency in this world is snails. So we were going to call the accounting stuff snails or whatever. But the new version I'm calling Sunny because I've been obsessed with One Piece.
Okay.
And in One Piece, their latest or newest ship is called the Thousand Sunny. And then like the currency in the One Piece world is berries. And they have like a compass. And so that is called a log pose, so that like the dashboard is going to be called log pose, and like,
Man,
so it's just
like world building. I love it.
it's just
love it.
like an amount. It's just like, let's shove as much nerdy crap into this thing as possible, and like, it's just fun. It's just like, okay, what am I going to call this? Like, what fits from this world and fits to this thing, and like, and then also like whenever I or my spouse go to Hootie or Sunny, it's like, oh, that's like, it brings a little smile because it's
a
like
little tick of joy, right? A little like,
it's just a little bit of joy, and it's just like,
yeah,
yeah, that tickles,
and it makes
a
you
little bit.
probably want to use it because you're like, it's endearing. It's like something you love already. That it's so smart to to pull references for like the sub components of this from the main. I mean, that's like, oh man,
I love it. It's like,
you're a
it's
smart
such a
cookie.
fun way to
That
do.
is a good way to go.
Because then it's like, okay, what does this fit into? And
Yeah.
this, what does it
Like, what's the parallel in that world that we can draw into this world? That's cool.
Because,
Man,
like,
I'm gonna steal
it's
that.
so easy to do that a lot with, like, I mean, you could do it with Star Wars. Like, you could call it the Millennium Falcon, and you could say, I don't know Star Wars well enough to know what the multiple currency systems.
Me neither. I don't either.
But yeah, you can pull from whatever, and it's super fun to just like have just little like nerdy callbacks. And
it kind of provides like a nice cohesion to the whole thing, right? It's like it feels more cohesive. I can't think of a better word than that, but yeah, so smart, so smart. I'm definitely stealing that. I think like that's the way I'm gonna like build apps from now on. Is like get this overarching thing and then just pull inspo out of it.
Yeah, for side projects and stuff, these days I usually find a nerdy thing that I'm like really in love with at that time, and then name the project that, and then name something else off of it, and it's fun.
Yeah, I'm very like. I don't actually use a lot of Chat GPT, which is funny. I feel like a lot of people do, and I'm just not quite like totally on board with that. But yeah, that's the one thing I use it for is like side project naming. I'm like, this is what it does. Give me 10 names, and I go 10 more, and then I find one in there that I'm like, okay, give me 5 more that are like this one, and then it'll just keep iterating. And
yeah,
there's a hard limit to it doing a good job on that, but something usually comes out of that, right? Yeah.
I mean, and in my case, like Sunny, okay, yeah, I guess like you could make a parallel to like Sunny as a home, and we use this for home stuff, and like, but at the end of the day, I'm like, it could be whatever. It could be like the Jasmine Dragon from like Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Right.
I'm just like looking at the nerd wall behind me of all the.
You're pulling inspiration directly from your surroundings.
Yeah, pretty much.
But that's fun. But again, it just like perpetuates the joy of the side project in general, which is like, which is great. Yeah.
I just
this
love
was
it.
So fun. Thank you for taking the time to talk. I appreciate it. Yeah. And keep us. Are you going to be writing? I think you were writing some blog posts about like the evolution and how it was coming about. You're going to keep that going.
Yeah, I made one video with a quick like just like setup of like Laravel new blah 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 speedrun almost. And then I think I'm gonna do either like I don't want to hold myself to videos, but like either videos or blog posts about like progress and interesting things I've learned, or like things that were hard that didn't need to be hard.
And where might people find that sort of thing if they were looking for it?
I would post it on my website and then share it out to all of the platforms, which currently include for me Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, and Pinkieri.
You are all in on everything. And
all of them have the same handle, which is TechNB, TechEnby, and yeah.
So just watch out for posts flowing out on any of those platforms.
Yep.
Beautiful.
And they'll all probably lead you back to the same place.
Great. Perfect.
Which is perfect.
Thank you so much. This was so fun. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right.
And have a good day.
That's the episode.
Yeah.